Welcome back. Today I want to talk about a couple of things. Number one, exiting Mexico and entering Belize. And that is going to cover you as a person, your truck, camper, RV, and pet, as well as the total cost and my personal total time to do all of that. Number two, I'm going to briefly go over Belize because, full transparency, we only stayed in Belize for 7 days, and about 6.5 of those days it rained. However, Belize is probably the most confusing and intriguing country so far, 100%. And lastly, I just want to cover a few things like being organized, what helps me cross the border for me, the truck, and my pet each time, just to make life so much easier. So let's start with number one, exiting Mexico. Very simple. It took me less than 5 minutes. You go to the first booth in the middle, you present your passport and your FMM or your tourist card. They stamp your passport out and you are clear. Then you go and park in the parking lot right next to that and you cancel the temporary import permit for your truck or RV. And it takes maybe 5 minutes or less, depending on how long the line is. And about 90% of the deposit you originally paid when you entered Mexico will be returned to your card within a few days. It's very fast. When you are canceling your tourist card and stamping your passport out, if you lost, misplaced, you no longer have your FMM, you will be required to pay again.
All right, all right. So we crossed the Belize border. It took 6 minutes to exit Mexico and 1 hour and 57 minutes to enter Belize. Mainly because all of the systems are quite antiquated. Everything is on paper, but the entire process is so easy. You arrive to the immigration office as any tourist. You fill out your declarations just like you would on the airplane. I have none. That was free. I'm a US passport holder. Then you go to the next desk to fill out the paperwork for your vehicle. That is $30 US, and then you have to spray the vehicle. That is $10 US, so $40 in total to import you and the vehicle. Porta, who has jumped out and went into this water and gotten this stinky mud all over the place. Porter's import permit was $75 US, plus we had to go to the vet in Mexico to get his international health certificate and 2 new vaccinations, so he's up to date on that. That was $60, and that process was super simple, very easy. And then you have to go and get car insurance. It was $44, 46, 66, something like that. The system was down, so they had to email me a link and I had to pay that way, but I was very grateful that they were able to even do that because I was out of all the money. They even gave me a car mount for patiently waiting. The entire process probably was really only 1 hour and 15 minutes long, but we were chatting with everybody and they really liked the truck, the camper.
We left the border, we headed for Cartagena, and on the way, I met a small group of Canadians that had retired there, and actually one American who previously lived just 35 minutes from where I used to live in Wisconsin. So that was really cool. I followed those guys, and these are what the bridges are. Check this out.
Ooh.
Must be a tourist.
First time.
Love the ferry.
It's so crazy.
Where you heading?
Cartagena.
That's where we live.
Ah, cool. Very cool.
We're looking there for.
I'm just gonna stay tonight and then go inland, and then I'm going to Guatemala.
Excuse me, baby. Just do me a favor, back up slowly, reverse.
So before even leaving the border, Belize was immediately confusing me because they speak English. You pay in US dollars. However, the change that I got back had Queen Elizabeth on the bill. So you have USA influence. you have influence from England, and then I was going to Cartagena, which is Spanish. The guy that asked for my Instagram at the border was Creole, and it just gets more and more confusing from there. So this is a really interesting country, and I learned that it's really only roughly 40 years old, and there's a lot going on in this very small country. Cartagena was super chill. It was very beautiful. However, this time of year there were so many mosquitoes, and the ocean, you can't even really swim in it. It's all kind of like mud muck. So that was a wee bit disappointing. So the next morning, we got up early, we left Cartagena, and we drove the whole day. We stopped in Orange Walk Town, and everything seemed really normal until I noticed a sign when we were exiting, and it said Republic of Taiwan. And this is where I started to think this is really getting weird for me, and I'm going to pay even more attention to all of the signs and everything. So even though Belize is very young, it's around 40 years old. I previously knew about Belize because of scuba diving. The islands are super beautiful and they have a world famous site called the Blue Hole. However, the land part of Belize, I knew nothing about prior to, and my brain goes, what is happening here? Belize used to be part of Guatemala. So, of course, there are Guatemalans, there are Mayans, but the Republic of Taiwan really threw me. Cartagena, Spain, Queen Elizabeth, on the money, England, US dollars, United States of America, Creole, huge population from other islands there. So we kept driving. We went to our camp for that night, and the lady that lived there was super kind. She was telling me about the history, how currently Guatemala wants to take back Belize. There were also signs on the side of the road, all of these farming projects sponsored by the European Union. Add that to the list of things going on.
Hello, hello, amigos. We're still in Belize. I am a little bummed, but I don't want to be hard on myself because this isn't my first time traveling. I've been traveling for 4 years now. I know how decision-making fatigue goes, and I know that I cannot be hard on myself of like, you're not doing enough, you're not seeing enough, you're missing all the good places. I already put myself last doing the overlanding stuff. Porter, the truck, and the camper all come before me, and I pay for it every time. I'm very tired. I'm low energy. I don't even want to make a single decision today, but I have like no food. It's hot and humid where we are camping, so I don't want to leave because this place is so peaceful. There's not a single noise besides birds. The people that own the property are so kind, but it is hot. It is humid. There is 6 days of rain coming starting tonight. It actually rained last night and the day before we got here, so the humidity is 90% at the moment. It's 85 degrees. It feels like 90. You just can't escape it. So I found a camping spot that is roughly 3 hours from here, but I just at the moment don't have the energy to break down the camper and drive. It's also getting to the hottest part of the day, so I will lay for maybe a half hour, rest. I have my office set up here. Porter is sleeping in the hottest part of the camper per usual. But yeah, I think I will give myself a half hour. We will pack everything up, and then we will drive. It's actually only a 2.5 hour drive, but I will need to stop for fuel. And I think I might try to find a pizza. Not very healthy, but I can't be bothered to cook when it's so hot and humid like this. And yeah, I really just want to get to Guatemala. I want to get near the lake, near the volcanoes. It's roughly 60 degrees Fahrenheit there, so it's very good cool camping weather. Yeah, I really wish I could just teleport. Okay, I will update you later. Oh, I'm stuck. Okay. No. Okay, so I made the decision to pack up and we're just about to arrive to the camp. It's literally like 5 miles from the Guatemala border, but it's a couple miles into the mountain. It's some pretty good off-road. I really love it. But I'm so excited to stay. I just feel like once I left that place, I got away from that side of Belize. And to be fair, it's not a judgment on Belize. I'm definitely not giving Belize like its due diligence of travel. But I just felt so much better when I got to this side. Basically, once I got to San Ignacio, I felt really great. And sorry, just downshifting into first gear because the rest of the hill is pretty steep from my understanding. And I feel like I have so much energy. I stopped. I had a salad that was so delicious. And the juice of the day was soursop. So that gave me so much life. And the hosts that run this camp, they're actually former Overlanders. And I was like, hey, I'm on my way, blah, blah, blah. I'm like 2.5 hours out, but I need to stop for fuel, food, and I'm going to grab a warm meal while I can. And they were like, yeah, please, like, get fuel, stock up on supplies, but, like, don't eat a meal. Lori is making a dinner. She's an excellent cook. Like, you have a seat at the table. And I'm just like, oh, yes, like, food is really the way to my heart. And I cannot wait to show you these views. I'm just pulling in the drive now. Hey, bud. What are you doing? What an incredible
And that's it. That is our time in Belize. We arrived, we paid, we met some cool people, we did some really neat river crossings. We had a few hours of sunshine in Sartahena before the mosquitoes attacked us. And then we drove and spent 6.5 days in the rain. Let's get to the last part. If you're planning your own little adventure and you're be crossing borders, this is how I stay super organized, stress-free for border crossings and also checkpoints on the road. I have a 1-inch binder, Queen of Color by Lisa Frank. I had to buy a new one. It was falling apart. The previous one was like 20 years old. Anyways, the front pocket, I keep all of the current country's information. So import permit, insurance, if there's any paperwork needed for Porter, I always keep that here. That way, if I'm stopped at a checkpoint, I just give them everything out of the front and then anything else they ask for. I also keep Porter's pet passport here because every time we enter a new country, he needs a health certificate. So it's just easy. I always know it's here. The rest of the binder is in page protectors. The first page is the original title with all of the copies. Second, original registration with all of the copies. Third is my driver's license and passport on the same page with copies. For all three of these, whenever I am inside of the office doing the paperwork for the temporary import permit for the truck, I always ask them, do you want the original or copies? Sometimes they keep the copies or sometimes they just want to verify the information on the original. Whatever they request, I oblige. Then I have copies of my birth certificate. You definitely don't need your birth certificate for crossing the borders. However, I have copies here and I have the original birth certificate in the safe in the truck just in case anything ever happens to my passport and I need to go to the embassy and get an emergency replacement. I have that documentation if it's lost, stolen, damaged, anything crazy happens. Then all of the rest of the pages are Porter's medical records, all of the important documentation and translated his most important documentation into Spanish so he can get his medication. And then in the back, I have a folder of all of the previous paperwork from all of the other borders. I don't really know why I keep all of this paperwork. I could toss it. However, maybe I'll do something cool with it one day. So that's my process. If you don't have a pet, you can get a smaller binder or even maybe just a folder. Just keep everything in page protectors. I definitely recommend getting at least, this is going to sound extreme, but I'm not kidding, for your title, registration, license, and passport on the same page. Just get 30 copies of each. I find it's not that big of a deal, but sometimes when you just want to get through and get the crossing done. For example, I crossed into Honduras, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica within 3 days, and I ran out of copies and I had to go and get it's just get it all done, and then you don't have to think about it, worry about it, find a place, pay, make sure you have currency, etc., etc., etc. When I'm going through checkpoints, if they stop me and they ask for paperwork, I just give them everything out of the front. And if they need any additional paperwork, I ask them the same thing. Do you want the originals or the copies? Usually they never asked for additional information, just my passport to confirm. This is a popular thing on all of the Facebook groups, and you will have people who scream and very aggressive of the opposite of what I'm about to say. I have been traveling full time for the last 5 years. If a government official, police officer, checkpoint, any government official asks for my identification, I give them my passport. Pretty much every single country outside the United States of America, a driver's license is not legal identification. A copy of your passport is not legal identification. Of course, if you hand them a copy of your passport, they're going to say, "What?" And you're going to say, "Oh, it's just for safety purposes. I don't want to lose my passport, whatever, yada, yada, yada." I find that very dated. Yes, there is definitely a history of police officers holding your passport for currency. It's not really the case anymore. We all have cell phones, we all have cameras, dash cams. It's just not something that really happens anymore, and I find it to be completely disrespectful. So that's just my personal experience. I always give my passport. I don't even ask if they want a copy. Passport, passport, passport. That is my legal identification, and I'm happy to oblige to police instructions and requests. That's just my experience, and yeah, we definitely didn't spend enough time in Belize, so stay tuned for so many videos of Guatemala, one of my favorite countries in all of Central America, active volcanoes, camping at a volcano. There's so many beautiful things about Guatemala, the people, the food, the culture, the lake, and I'm so excited to share everything with you guys. So stay tuned and we'll check you later. Bye.
Muy bien, Ashley.
Gracias.
Bienvenida. Que disfrutes Guatemala.
Ok, gracias.
Eso es todo.
Ok, perfecto. ¿Todo bien?
Sí, todo
Sí, cool. Gracias, hasta luego.
Un placer.